Well, joining us now is Eugene B. Kogan. He's a negotiation strategist and researcher at Harvard Business School. Thanks so much for being with us. At this point, there are no clear signs of a peaceful resolution. We heard from our correspondent Gulliver Craig earlier that the Ukrainian people have zero hope that a peace deal can be reached. From where you sit, what are the chances?
Thanks for having me. This is a critical time for negotiation. And as a negotiation analyst, not a political analyst, I can tell you what's happening on the ground is both the Russians and the Ukrainians are fighting for leverage in these negotiations. And Russia can be expected to use brutality increasingly to build its leverage at the negotiating table. Ukraine's main leverage comes in the person of Vladimir Zelensky. In fact, not just in the message that he delivers, but in his own persona. I have watched his speeches over the last couple of days, including to the U.S. Congress, and I can tell you he's doing a fantastic job for a superpower fighting clearly a much larger power to connect his fight with that of the rest of the world. And that's what we always advise in negotiations with the weaker power, to broaden the fight, right? The only advice, if I were giving Zelensky advice, would be to speak more English and connect more personally with the audience. That is the most critical piece of his leverage, and he should be using it more.
Well, Charles Michel, the president of the European Council, spoke a short time ago. I'd like to play some of his comments and then ask you something about it on the other side. Let's take a listen.
Firstly, what is certain is that the European Union took immediate and powerful decision. And for the first time in the history of the EU, we are delivering lethal military equipment, and we are going to continue. At Versailles, it was decided to increase this capacity by 500 million euros. And that is in addition to the individual member states also providing military means. And I'm totally convinced that we are going to continue supporting and including military material to the Ukrainians so that they can continue their resistance without having to do anything that might aggravate the situation and risk a third world war.
Le voudrait amène à une aggravation du conflit avec un risque de troisième guerre mondiale.
And that was Charles Michel speaking to France 24. So what role can outside parties play in negotiating an end to the war? For example, the United States and the EU.
The outside parties can, in a sentence, make ceasefire and negotiated solution more attractive to Vladimir Putin than a continuation of war, right? This has to be a structured choice. Either you continue the war and you pay very high price, economically, financially, and militarily. Militarily mostly thanks to the valiant Ukrainians fighting on the ground, denying the military victory, but the alternative also has to be there, and Ukraine, together with the outside parties, consultation, needs to think about how to offer a small but tangible way out, a ramp up that would allow Putin, however distasteful this may sound, allow Putin to claim win. Because unless he can claim a win in this war, unfortunately, things can get considerably worse than they are now.
Okay, well, we want to leave it there. We apologize to our viewers there for the audio quality, but Eugene B. Kogan, a negotiation strategist and researcher at Harvard Business School, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.